Let's stay a bit longer on this, and I've been joined via Zoom by lawyer Francis Susu, who is also MP for Medina. He's been on the interest. He has an interest in this bill. In fact, it's a private member's bill. He is part of those who submitted this bill. I'm grateful for your time. Mr. Susu, what do you make of the latest developments on this bill?
Well, I think that it is, first of all, good morning and a very good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. I think the latest development is a win for our democracy, is a win for Ghana, and it just adds us to the Committee of Nations that have moved away from the use of death penalty as a means of punishment. Ghana will be joining some other 27 African countries and 127 other international countries who have all moved away from the use of the death penalty, clearly because death penalty is too final and there could be mistakes in prosecution and so on and so forth. So for me, it's a big win, and I think we should be proud of ourselves as a nation that we are ready to make this major policy shift.
What's your response to those who say that this is on our law books? It doesn't bite, so let it be there so it can serve as a deterrent to those who want to perpetrate crime?
Well, two things. In the first place, we move away from emotional or let me say subjective approach to passing laws to a more objective approach to passing laws. There are researches that have been done. I mean, all over the world, there is no single research that shows that retention of death penalty in any way kind of deter people from committing crimes. In all the African countries that were ahead of us in abolishing death penalty, there is nowhere do we have one single research evidence that points to the fact that the non-existence of a death penalty actually facilitated some commission of crime. Indeed, the best example we got was from the U.S. because U.S. retains death penalty at the federal level. But today, if you look at the statistics, even the most recent statistics, 2023 statistics, violent crime and murder rates in the U.S. are extremely high. And now, in the U.S., there are many states who have abolished death penalty and others that retain death penalty. Now, there is a consistent study from 2010 all the way to 2019, which is a comparative analysis between states that have taken away the death penalty and states that still retain the death penalty. And consistently, the evidence available points to the fact that those who retain death penalty have higher rates of murder and violent crimes as compared to those who do not retain the death penalty. And again, if you look at the most peaceful countries in the world today, you take Canada, for example, they abolished death penalty way back. And so there is really no correlation between retention of death penalty and then deterrence. And secondly, the argument that, oh, it doesn't matter, it's on a studied book, you don't use it. I mean, if for 30 years you don't use the provision, I mean, any legal reform commission would tell you that then the law is not right. I mean, if you have a law on your study book you cannot use for 30 years, then there's a problem, with that law. And the biggest challenge with it, having and not using it, is the fact that you don't bring closure to both victims as well as convicts. Because when you convict someone for murder or for any offense carrying death penalty, say smuggling in gold or diamond or attempted murder or anything, and you convict the person and sentence the person to death, and you don't kill the person for 30 years, then there is no closure for that person. At the same time, the victim never has closure because the victim goes home thinking that, well, the person is deserted a pint of flesh because the cause is the person be killed, and yet the person is not killed for 10 years. So the victim do not have closure also. But where you have your law aligns with the regime that says that the person is sentenced to life imprisonment, once the court pronounces life imprisonment, everybody has closure, both the victim and the one who has been convicted. Then finally, research actually shows now since independence, the total number of people who have been killed in Ghana is about 49 using this law, including the former head of state. Now, when you watch the execution pattern, most of them happen during military regimes. So not even civil regimes. And so it's been argued that the death penalty can be very arbitrary and it can be a weapon in the hand of any military junta to suppress, views of dissent and so on and so forth. And in many of the countries globally that still retain death penalty, it's always been used as a tool to suppress other political opponents or political views. The classic example is Myanmar. Myanmar is in Asia, and Myanmar has had the death penalty provision since 1980 and has never used it. So for 43 years, they never used those provisions. But last year, when there was a military takeover, 4 of their leaders were executed. They did trials at night, like very, very horrible trials. And as we speak now, about 100 others are on death row waiting to be executed. And so the fact that the law is there, we are not using it, is not sufficient. If it is not something we endorse as a people, we don't want it. We must take it away. And historically, Ghana has shown that we've always wanted to remove this law. For example, in 2011, the Constitutional Review Commission's work pointed to the fact that there was a recommendation that we should remove the death penalty. Then that was in 2010. 2011, the then government, with a government white paper, accepted the recommendation that we should remove death penalty and replace it with a life sentence, except that the government did not finish the amendment before we lost power in 2016. And since 2017, nothing has actually been done until when I came to Parliament in 2021, except for the advocacy, because Amnesty International has been at the forefront advocating persons like lawyer Martin Pebu had proposed all the strategies that allow us to amend the Criminal Offences Act rather than taking the constitutional route. And so once I got the opportunity in Parliament with the stakeholders and support of all these major stakeholders and coalition against the penalty, led by the Amnesty International, lawyer Martin Pebu and others, I was able to lay this private members bill that has gone through all the processes and got passed yesterday. And so I think that Ghana should be proud that we have done something, cross-party passing of this bill that puts Ghana at a global stage as a country that is human rights compliant.
Congratulations to you and the members who pushed for this.